Hello, you're watching A News. I'm Bakhtiar Sanova, and let's see the top stories. Russia launches major drone missile attack on Ukraine. Moldovans vote in high-stakes parliamentary election. And world's tallest bridge opens to traffic in southwest of China's Guizhou province. Kiev has come under one of the heaviest Russian drone and missile barrage since the full-scale attack began. According to Ukrainian authorities, at least 4 people, including a 12-year-old girl, have been killed and 40 others wounded in the overnight strikes on the capital and surrounding areas.
The overnight assault brought devastation across the Ukrainian capital. Air raid sirens sounded for hours as waves of drones and missiles struck residential neighborhoods. Kiev's military administration said more than 15 sites were hit, including multi-story apartment blocks and even a state cardiological hospital. Fires tore through courtyards and thick smoke rose from several districts. Residents fled deep underground into metro stations and are now familiar refuge against Russia's bombardment. Anti-aircraft fire echoed across the city as defenses tried to repel the barrage. Officials described the strike as one of the largest on Kiev in more than 3 years of full-scale war. Independent monitors and local media reported it was among the heaviest barrages they had ever recorded. Across Ukraine, the scale of the assault was felt far beyond the capital. In Zaporizhzhia, at least 4 people were injured when missiles and drones hit civilian infrastructure. Ukraine's foreign ministry accused Moscow of firing hundreds of drones and missiles overnight, destroying homes and killing civilians. Officials in Kyiv vowed there would be a response and once again appealed to Western allies for tougher economic pressure on Russia. Neighboring Poland briefly closed its airspace near 2 southeastern cities and scrambled fighter jets, placing air defense systems on high alert. Authorities in Warsaw called the measures preventive, aimed at securing citizens and NATO's eastern flank.
Ukrainian officials will soon head to the United States to discuss major arms and drone deals, President Volodymyr Zelensky says. During his recent U.S. visit, Zelensky met President Donald Trump and shared a vision for responding to Russia's war, including a $90 billion weapons wish list. Ukraine has already deployed 1 Patriot missile system from Israel, with 2 more coming this autumn.
Good news. Of course, we want to stop the war.
As for what Ukraine wants from the United States of America, we have passed to the President of the United States of America all of this, in details, and with illustrations of what Ukraine wants. The Israeli Patriot system is already operational in Ukraine. It has been operational for a month. We are also expecting 2 more Patriot systems during the autumn. Putin won't wait until the end of the war in Ukraine. He will open another door. No one knows where that door is. No one knows for sure where that door is. But one thing is certain. He wants to do it. He is testing Europe. He has checked that Europe doesn't have the capacity to protect itself from Russian drones.
Moldovans are heading to the polls on Sunday in a pivotal parliamentary election that could shape the country's future in Europe. Polls opened at 7 a.m. and closed 9 p.m. local time. The election was declared valid after voter turnout surpassed the minimum required by law of 33.3%.
Moldovans are heading to the polls on Sunday for a high-stakes parliamentary election that could determine the country's path toward European Union membership. The vote for all 101 seats in Parliament comes after multiple crises linked to the war in Ukraine, including energy shortages and economic strain. Moldova, one of Europe's poorest countries, imports much of its energy from Romania following Russian supply cuts, while inflation remains around 7%. Opinion polls suggest a tight race between President Maia Sandu's pro-European Party of Action and Solidarity, PAS, and several pro-Russian parties, including the Patriotic Bloc. The nominally pro-European Alternative Alliance is also contesting the vote, appealing to voters frustrated by slow reforms, high prices, and scepticism over closer ties with the EU. PAS may struggle to secure a majority and could need to form a coalition, which would affect the pace of Moldova's EU ambitions. Adding to the tension, a major pro-Russian party has been barred from Moldova's parliamentary elections just 2 days before voting. The Central Electoral Commission disqualified the Heart of Moldova party after a court suspended its activities for a year over allegations of voter bribery, illegal financing and money laundering. The party is part of the Russia-friendly Patriotic Electoral Bloc, a key rival to the ruling pro-Western party of Action and Solidarity. Its leader, Irina Vlar, denounced the decision as a political spectacle and was also banned this week from entering 3 EU countries over claims of aiding Moscow's interference. Officials in Chisinau say the ban is essential to protect Moldova's democracy from Kremlin-backed schemes. President Maia Sandu has described Sunday's election as the most consequential in the country's history, warning that Russia has spent millions to influence the vote and recruited operatives to stir unrest. Moscow, however, dismisses these accusations as anti-Russian and unfounded. But the head of the EU election observer mission says there is ample evidence of Russian interference. Authorities have arrested dozens of individuals over alleged Russian-backed activities, with intelligence reports indicating some citizens were trained abroad in protest tactics. The Kremlin's influence efforts are believed to extend beyond politics, reaching into religious networks. Moldova's government accuses Russia of recruiting Orthodox priests to sway voters toward pro-Russian parties. National Security Advisor Stanislav Secrieru says priests were trained in Russia, toured holy sites, and then returned to Moldova to create parish social media channels warning against European integration.
The most immoral feature of Russian electoral interference in elections in Moldova is the use of the most trusted institution, the church. Russia recruits and trains the priests during so-called all-inclusive pilgrimages in order to turn religion into a weapon. After the training, priests come to Moldova and use their influence in order to sow the mistrust, erode the confidence of society, and to generate and fuel mistrust in our society.
A review of these channels found almost 90 new Telegram accounts disseminating posts echoing pro-Russian narratives, claiming Moldova's traditional values are under threat from the EU. While Kremlin-linked operatives like Artyom Starostin have been connected to the program, the Moldovan Orthodox Church denies any political campaign and describes the trips as religious pilgrimages. Moldova's diaspora, who usually support pro-European parties, will also influence the results. Brussels has backed Moldova's EU ambitions, and leaders from France, Germany and Poland visited Chisinau in August to reaffirm support. Voters express a wide range of opinions. Some support the ruling pro-European party, seeing it as offering better conditions for Moldova and a path toward EU membership. Others remain uncertain, questioning whether closer ties with Europe will truly benefit the country.
Which would be better for us, the European Union or friendship with Russia? We already know how it was with friendship with Russia. But what will happen in the EU?
With economic pressures, political divisions and concerns over foreign interference, the outcome of Sunday's election is expected to have lasting effects on Moldova's European integration and internal stability.
Russia and the United States are set to hold a third round of consultations this fall to address ongoing bilateral issues. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov announced on Saturday. Lavrov said the talks will cover topics such as visas, embassy operations, property and other aspects of diplomatic missions. 2 previous rounds were held earlier this year in Riyadh and Istanbul. He also referred to the August meeting in Alaska between Presidents Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump, which focused on broader bilateral matters. Calls for a comprehensive hostage deal are intensifying in Israel. On Saturday, thousands took to the streets of Tel Aviv, urging the government to take action. Protests have surged following Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's speech at the United Nations.
Pressure is mounting in Israel for a comprehensive hostage deal. On Saturday, thousands rallied in Tel Aviv, urging the government to act.
I was disappointed from Netanyahu's speech yesterday. He didn't talk about Trump plan. He didn't talk about, didn't mention about anything about finishing this bloody war. And even the hostages, he didn't read all the hostages' names. So we've got to understand that they've got no time. They've got all to come back home, and they're not going to survive. And I'm calling to all the leaders around the world to do everything to put any pressure on Netanyahu to end this war.
The demonstrations followed Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's address at the UN General Assembly, where he lashed out at Western leaders backing Palestinian statehood and read aloud the names of 20 Israeli hostages believed to be alive.
He's trying to speak to his base in the Likud party or whatever, but it was meaningless. I think that the most important thing will be the meeting with President Trump on Monday. This is the important thing
As Israel's offensive in Gaza City presses on, Netanyahu is preparing for talks with US President Donald Trump on Monday. Earlier, Trump said that negotiations with Middle Eastern nations over Gaza remain intense and will continue until progress is made. His special envoy, Steve Witkoff, noted that the president this week presented several Muslim leaders with a 21-point peace plan for the region.
As we have got to.
Palestinians are fleeing Gaza City as Israeli military operations intensify. Many displaced residents have been forced to leave their homes with little time to take any belongings.
Palestinians continue to flee Gaza City amid what they describe as increasingly intense military operations in recent days. The Israeli military has stepped up its campaign to seize Gaza in its efforts to defeat Hamas, with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu earlier this month warning Gaza City residents to leave. Many are now moving along coastal roads after fleeing their homes without the chance to take any belongings.
I've been walking from the beach camp since yesterday, 6 a.m. I got the artificial leg recently and I can't walk for long. I arrived at 10 p.m. to another place. We slept outside in the desert and it was cold. I was heading to the south. Look at the situation. There were airstrikes from the quadcopter, shellings from tanks, from the ships also, and targeted all the houses. We didn't have other options. We had to leave without clothes. We don't have blanket or clothes or anything.
As Israeli forces push deeper into the heart of Gaza City, the army claims it is taking steps to avoid hitting civilians. Many displaced residents are now living in tents where essentials such as clean water are difficult to access. Long queues form at water distribution points as adults and children wait to quench their thirst. Even as hundreds of thousands have left the city in northern Gaza, many others have hesitated due to security risks and widespread hunger.
U.S. President Donald Trump has ordered federal troops to Portland with authorization to use full force if necessary. The decision follows weeks of protests and has sparked a debate over federal involvement in local security.
U.S. President Donald Trump announced on Saturday that he is deploying federal troops to Portland, Oregon, authorizing the use of full force if necessary to protect immigration detention centers amid ongoing protests. In a Truth Social post, Trump said he had directed Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to send troops to protect war-ravaged Portland and ICE facilities under siege from Antifa and other domestic terrorists. The decision follows weeks of demonstrations outside a Portland immigration facility, some of which have turned violent. Federal prosecutors say at least 26 people have been charged with crimes, including arson and assaulting officers. Democratic officials condemned the move, calling it unnecessary and unconstitutional. The Department of Homeland Security, however, claims protesters have repeatedly attacked ICE facilities and targeted officers with threats, accusing members of the recently designated domestic terrorist group Antifa of publishing agents' personal information online. Despite the backlash, some Republican officials praised Trump's decision as necessary to restore order. The deployment is part of a wider crackdown on illegal immigration, following similar troop mobilizations in Los Angeles and Washington, D.C.
3 people have been killed and at least 8 others injured after a gunman opened fire from a boat near a waterfront restaurant in South Post, North Carolina. The attack happened late on Saturday night along the Intracoastal Waterway. Police say the suspect fled but was later detained, and the community is not to be in danger. Local media report the shooting began around 9:30 p.m. as a boat pulled alongside the dockside bar and restaurant. Investigators remain at the scene, treating it as an active crime investigation. Several of the wounded have been taken to local hospitals with their conditions not yet confirmed. In Vietnam's Nha Trang province, residents and business owners are preparing for the fast-approaching typhoon Ba Loi, bringing boats ashore and securing shops. The storm recently caused at least 10 deaths and flooding in the Philippines. Ba Loi is expected to reach central Vietnam's coast this evening with winds of up to 133 kilometers per hour. Operations at 4 coastal airports, including Da Nang, have been suspended, and flooding has already begun in Hue and Quang Tri. Vietnam is frequently hit by typhoons. Last year, Typhoon Yagi claimed over 300 lives and caused $3.3 billion in damage. China is celebrating a major infrastructure milestone with the launch of the world's tallest bridge in Guangxi province. The project is being hailed as a breakthrough in engineering, dramatically improving travel across the region's challenging terrain.
China has opened the world's tallest bridge in the mountainous province of Guizhou, reducing travel time across a deep canyon from 2 hours to just 2 minutes. The Huajiang Grand Canyon Bridge, completed after 3 years of construction, officially opened to traffic on Sunday, rising 625 meters above the Beipan River and almost 9 times the height of San Francisco's Golden Gate Bridge. The structure is an engineering marvel. Its 1,420-meter main span makes it the longest steel truss suspension bridge ever built in a mountainous region. The 2,890-meter-long bridge spans the dramatic Huajiang Canyon, replacing a lower structure built in 2016 and setting new engineering benchmarks. Construction teams used advanced technology such as drones, satellite systems and high-strength materials to achieve precision and safety. More than just infrastructure, the bridge includes viewing platforms, glass observation decks, and facilities for activities like bungee jumping. Guizhou, which has built over 30,000 bridges across its rugged terrain, is now home to nearly half of the world's 100 tallest bridges.
Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan met UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres in New York. They stressed that the peace agreement signed between Armenia and Azerbaijan on 8th of August could help bring stability to the South Caucasus. Pashinyan and Guterres also discussed cooperation on the 17th meeting of the Conference of the Parties to the Convention of Biological Diversity, which is due to take place in Armenia in October 2026. The meeting also touched upon other issues of mutual interest. Georgian Prime Minister Irakli Kobakidze has pledged new reforms to boost investor confidence and raise project standards in energy and infrastructure. Speaking at the Georgian Business Association conference, he vowed to end permit resale practices that have slowed the energy sector. He highlighted a recent $6.6 billion investment deal with the United Arab Emirates firms as proof of Georgia's growing appeal to foreign investors. Kovakidze also stressed the need for efficiency and fair competition in construction, aiming to build on the country's strong economic growth. Turkey has accelerated its shift towards automation with sales of more than 3,500 industrial robots last year, placing the country among the world's top 15 markets. Analysts say this surge is helping Turkish industry sharpen its global competitiveness, particularly in automotive, defense and electronics.
The latest data show Turkey is now the 14th largest market worldwide for industrial robots, surpassing the global growth rate. The push has been driven by rising labor costs, faster investment returns, and the demand for higher productivity. Robots are increasingly handling repetitive tasks that younger workers no longer choose to do, while manufacturers adopt automation to meet export standards.
We see automation rising at a rate even higher than the global average. Robots are now deployed across a wide range of industries, from automotive to household appliances, food and healthcare.
The shift is also tied to the concept of the dark factory facilities that operate with minimal or no human intervention. This is expected to expand further with the integration of artificial intelligence into manufacturing processes.
According to the 2025 report, over 542,000 robots were sold worldwide in 2024. That's more than double the figure just a decade earlier. In Turkey alone, 3,551 robots were installed last year, making us the 14th biggest market.
Executives underline that if Turkish factories want to remain competitive with China, Germany, the US, South Korea and Japan, they must embrace robotics.
Turkey has successfully test-fired its indigenously developed Cyper 1D long-range air defense missile from a naval vertical launch system. The achievement places the country among a select group of nations capable of deploying long-range air defense systems from their own warships. The test coincided with the anniversary of the Turkish naval forces.
Turkey has successfully test-fired its indigenously developed Cyper 1D long-range air defense missile from a naval vertical launch system, placing it among the few nations with homegrown ship-based air defense capability. The Cyper 1D missile, with a range of over 100 kilometers, was launched from the National Vertical Launch System, known as MIDLAS. Officials describe the trial as a milestone for Turkey's naval defense capabilities under its Blue Homeland maritime doctrine. Developed jointly by Roketsan and Aselsan, MIDLAS allows 360-degree coverage for firing different types of guided missiles from naval vessels. After completing development, the system was integrated into TCG Istanbul, Turkey's first nationally built frigate. It had earlier been tested with the medium-altitude HISAR-DRF missile. The first land-based test of MIDLAS took place in December 2022, successfully launching a HISAR-RF air defense missile. The Cyper system was designed to meet modern air defense needs, ranging from planning and coordination to providing a unified air picture. Roketsan underlined that this success reflects its commitment to enhancing the capabilities of the Turkish armed forces and to further strengthening the country's defense power.
Syria's historic citadel of Aleppo has reopened to visitors, marking a significant step in the country's recovery from years of conflict. Restoration efforts have repaired extensive damage, allowing crowds to return and celebrate this iconic UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Syria's historic citadel of Aleppo reopened to visitors on Saturday, marking a symbolic moment of recovery for a country heavily affected by conflict. Drone footage captured sweeping views of the ancient fortress, with crowds gathering atop the hill in the centre of Aleppo to celebrate the reopening.
We reopened the Aleppo citadel after a long period of closure and neglect. The citadel, like the people of Aleppo, has suffered extensive damage during the war and the revolution, yet it remains steadfast, standing tall like the citizens of Aleppo. The maintenance process included the entire infrastructure, from main water lines to electricity lines, in addition to other essential works. Restoration work, which lasted several months, included repairs to water and electricity lines, as well as stabilization of damaged columns and walls.
The citadel, listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, was severely damaged during long-running battles between the former Syrian government and opposition forces and was first reopened in 2018. In 2023, it suffered further damage from an earthquake that ravaged southern Turkey and northern Syria. The citadel was closed again in December last year when opposition forces began an offensive that toppled Syria's then leader, Bashar al-Assad.
That's all we have for now. Thank you for joining us and stay tuned to A News for more.